Love it. So as was stated, my name is Chapman. I'm a modeling engineer at Enapter, and today I'll be talking about Enapter's unique electrolyzer technology. But on top of that, I will also be talking about how it fits into a hydrogen economy and how we are in a critical position to facilitate that transition. So by the end of this talk, if you aren't already well acquainted with the benefits of a hydrogen economy, you will be. So we design and manufacture anion exchange membrane electrolyzers. We install, monitor, and support hydrogen storage systems globally. And around the world, we work with system integrators, urban mobile operators, urban developers, and more. But before I go into the actual technology in itself, I'll be first discussing how hydrogen is conventionally made. So as noted in the prior talk, steam reformation is one of the main ways that hydrogen is produced on an industrial scale. And so as a result, you could call it gray hydrogen, or it has a CO2 emission associated with it. So 96% of all hydrogen production is fossil fuel derived, and only 4% comes from electrolysis. This is because historically fossil fuels have been cheaper. Hydrogen is used industrially. It's a commodity for a number of chemical and industrial applications. In particular, a plurality of the consumption of hydrogen is used in making ammonia via the Haber-Bosch process, and that ammonia then goes into making around 2/3 of the world's fertilizer. So the demand for hydrogen will not decrease over time. If anything, we should be looking to a more sustainable avenue of production. But with that being said, there are also a number of potential applications and prospective markets that will be opening up in the future, also discussed by the other fuel cell guys in this talk. So one such application is heavy-duty high drive cycle transportation. So hydrogen has superior energy density. So if you're comparing it to lithium-ion or even lithium metal battery systems, compared to lithium-ion, the energy density of hydrogen at 700 bars is 2 orders of magnitude higher. So if you care about long-range applications, high loading, this is where fuel cells really benefit. So buses, trains, cargo transport, and even potentially aviation could have all of those transportation sectors either having their emissions mitigated or completely eliminated. But as stated prior, you are still stricken to the emissions of your mode of hydrogen production. So though the end uses will be carbon neutral, we still should push for a green mode of hydrogen production. So with that being said, the schematic shows kind of the power-to-power cycle of including a green mode of hydrogen production. So you would utilize renewable energy to run it through an electrolyzer to split water into hydrogen and oxygen, and then you would compress it for stationary storage, high-capacity storage, and then run it back through a fuel cell for electricity. So those of you who are familiar with hydrogen technologies, some people have cried wolf over the round-trip efficiency of such an energy vector. But as I'm about to show, it's something that will diminish greatly in the near future. So this basically includes all 3 components that you would need for that power-to-power cycle. So electrolysis, electrochemical compression, which is something that some companies are working on implementing, in particular Hyatt and Griner in Massachusetts. But the major losses at the moment come from electrolysis. Electrolysis runs at about 70% efficiency and accounts for essentially one of the most major sources of loss. But all 3 of these systems strongly couple to each other in that they share a number of components. So, for example, the hydrogen catalyst, or the hydrogen reaction in particular, is said to be reversible. So you can use the same electrocatalyst for producing hydrogen or splitting it into charge carriers. And so improvements in the hydrogen catalyst would improve all 3 systems simultaneously. So like incremental improvements in any of the components, whether or not it's the oxygen catalyst, oxygen reduction, oxygen evolution, a hydrogen catalyst, or the membrane, will lead to a nonlinear increase in the round-trip efficiency of using such a green energy vector. But with that being said, since electrolysis is the main source of loss, I would like to show how we're doing relative to industrial applications. So this table was included in a hydrogen technology outlook report. It was published by the International Renewable Energy Agency in Abu Dhabi, and they set the 2017 and 2025 targets for the cost and efficiency of two conventional modes of electrolysis. So PEM is for proton exchange membranes, so PEM fuel cells are the ones that are commercialized the most at this point. You can also use them for electrolysis, or a PEM system for electrolysis. And then alkaline is liquid alkaline, so it's more of like a batch reaction. That's been used mostly on an industrial scale, as the system lifetime is a lot longer than PEM systems. Now, since an anion exchange membrane runs in a mildly alkaline environment, I'll be highlighting the alkaline numbers. So they post that the 2025 target, so kilowatt hours per kilogram of hydrogen, should be 49 kilowatt hours per kilogram. In our system, one thing I should note is that these numbers are for a 20 megawatt scale plant. And our system works essentially, we're at a kilowatt scale, and to make 1 kilogram of hydrogen at a system level, our energy consumption is 54 kilowatt hours. But if you look at just our electrolyzer, not including our energy management system or sensors that I'll be talking about later, our electrolyzer is actually already at 48 kilowatt hours per kilogram of hydrogen. So we're right on top of the 2025 target. Also, since anion exchange membranes utilize a solid polymer electrolyte membrane, we can also have very high output pressures. So our output pressure currently is at 35 bars. So this is comparable to today's PEM systems. We're looking to increase that in the future once we have a final design of our system. Our longest operational device has been running for 10 years for 10,000 hours, and it hasn't had any major efficiency losses, and on a cell level, degradation has been completely negligible. So at this point, we just haven't been around long enough to really know what the maximum lifetime of our system is, but it's looking pretty good so far. So how did we do this? So in particular, anion exchange membrane electrolyzers, as I said prior, combine the benefits of both alkaline and PEM systems. So the anode side is water is flowed in to hydrate the membrane, reacts on the cathode to make hydrogen and hydroxide ions, which then the hydroxide then conducts back across the membrane to produce oxygen and water on the anode side. So in particular, since we run in a mildly alkaline environment, we do not need expensive components. So we don't need acid-resistant titanium bipolar plates. We don't need noble metal catalysts. So at the moment, on a cell and stack level, our cost is much less than the equivalent PEM system. On top of that, since we have a solid-state electrolyte membrane, we have a very simple balance of plant. It's compact, and we can increase the output pressures into the future such that we can reduce compression losses for storage. And so that was a schematic of just the cell. This is our full EL1000. So it has the control modules, power modules, and then stacks of our electrolyzer. So one stack in itself makes 500 normal liters of hydrogen per hour at 35 bar. But if you keep adding, number of stacks together, our maximum device that we have so far makes 10,000 liters per hour at a power rating of 48 kilowatt hours. So right now the scale that we're working at is small to medium-sized systems, mostly residential scales. I'll be going over use cases in a few slides from now. But our system is modular, so we'd like to think that we're working from the bottom up. We're trying to match the modular nature of renewable energy, such that we can enable their integration to existing systems and promote off-grid energy solutions. So before I go into this, this is not my field of expertise, but But the energy management system that we have was produced by our in-house software team. And it's our AEM electrolyzer technology in itself is not sufficient to be a good building block for the future of energy storage. But coupling that with energy management systems allow for essentially being able to establish an Internet of Things with hydrogen storage and production. Ideally, we would want to establish resilient hydrogen-based microgrids, and such an energy management system would allow that. So we have a network of sensors that essentially allow the user to look at real-time diagnostics. It reports, it has predictive capabilities of potential failure modes, but also measures things like hydrogen production and capacity that you're at. So it facilitates not only the integration of the system into existing renewable energy systems, but also just consumer ease of mind in general. So this is a picture of our user interface. So it contains all of those things that I was saying prior. The software itself is open source. So as hydrogen picks up more momentum over time, we'd like to see people, even if they don't buy our products, utilizing our software such that it can promote microgrids. Since extreme weather events are becoming more and more common, microgrids seem to be the correct solution to a number of safety, security, energy independence issues. This is the direction that we'd like to see things go. So now I'll be talking about some of our use cases. So currently our hydrogen production and storage is it's used in 26 different countries worldwide. And each of these use cases highlight the particular advantage that hydrogen has as compared to other modes of energy storage. So resilience to changes, seasonal changes in weather, an off-grid energy storage, high-capacity energy storage solution, but also decarbonizes end uses of energy and removes scarcity from fuel economics. So the first use case is in Digi, Malaysia. So it's a communications network, tower rather, and they used to run off of diesel generators, but they had the issue where locals would actually steal the diesel. So they quite literally have energy security now. On top of that, utilizing solar and hydrogen as their mode of capacity or mode of energy storage, they can run uninterrupted as is required for a communications tower. The next example is a mountain cabin in the French Alps. So during the summer, it runs off of solar and batteries, but during the winter, as you can see, the solar panels are covered, on top of the fact that there's just reduced solar radiation intensity during the winter. And so they utilize hydrogen such that they can run year-round. So they required a high-capacity energy storage to get through snowy winters. And then the last case that we have is the Pisua house in Thailand. So it's a housing complex that's powered solely off of solar and hydrogen. They have 2 of our electrolyzers, hydrogen storage tanks, 3 fuel cells, and then a number of solar panels on the main house and the guest houses. So in their case, it's not only allows energy independence to the users, but Thailand has a pretty intense rainy season, and so the high capacity storage allows, at full capacity, allows the house, or the complex rather, to run autonomously for up to 30-35 hours, which is about as long as they need to go like through a really bad storm. On top of this, we are currently installing a refueling station at the same location for the user. So at this point, they can produce hydrogen, homemade, have a nice homemade fuel, and so scarcity and fuel independence is available to them completely. So this just highlights the fact that hydrogen, you can use it for a number of applications. And as long as your mode of production is green, then it allows for a carbon neutral application of it. So with that said, hydrogen, it has a number of benefits that makes it unique as an energy vector. It enables renewable energy systems in that it can capture otherwise wasted renewable energy since it's such high capacity, decarbonizes a number of end uses for the user, removes scarcity from fuel economics, and hydrogen is actually way safer than most people actually would like to believe. On top of this, we actually offer full recyclability of our system such that we can promote sustainable production into the future. Now, so as I was saying, our anion exchange membrane electrolyzer is in a very unique position to essentially facilitate the transition to a robust hydrogen economy. So hydrogen offers a cradle-to-cradle recyclable energy storage solution insofar as hydrogen can be used for a number of applications. So not only electricity generation, but also heat generation. It can be used, the throttling effect, so whenever you discharge a hydrogen tank, you can use that as a heat sink for refrigeration cycles. It's a commodity for a number of industrial and chemical applications. And just there are a number of sectors that can be completely carbon neutral, or at least have their emissions mitigated. So, you know, in today's day and age where the emissions targets aren't exactly being met, we're getting closer and closer to the point of no return, and I feel like hydrogen offers almost a panacea to these issues that we're dealing with. So who are we? So we're an international startup. Our R&D facility is in Italy, communications in Berlin, Germany, and strategy and design in Thailand. We have strong partners worldwide. We're expanding every day. Electrolysis of water in general has been known for a very long time, but the widespread implementation of it has been held back by economic feasibility, special interests, and just overall complacency. So the dream of a carbon neutral future drives me and my team forward, and it's a bunch of great guys to work with, honestly. But with that being said, I'd like to leave you guys all with a quote. It's from Jules Verne in a book he wrote in 1874. Yes, my friends, I believe that water will one day be employed as fuel, that hydrogen and oxygen, which constitute it, will furnish an inexhaustible source of heat and light, of an intensity of which coal is not capable. Water will be the coal of the future. Thank you.
You said when you started, you were going to respond to the situation that if you start off with electricity through electrolyzer, and then you have to pressurize it and store it, and then you put it through a fuel cell. So you have electricity in an electric motor. The efficiency really is pretty good, somewhere 35 to 40%.
Yeah, like 40% at max, yeah.
And you said you were going to put that myth the rest.
Yeah, well, so the main point that I was trying to make was that it's a short-term issue, but in the long term, the round-trip efficiency, like those three technologies I showed, contribute to each step along the power-to-power cycle. So, for example, electrochemical compression isn't really mainstream yet, but it offers a number, like I think, if you're assuming mechanical compression, the efficiency is 80%. And mechanical compression, it's multiple stages, it's an adiabatic sort of thermodynamic reaction. And the other case would be electrochemical compression, where it's isothermal, so it's more efficient, single stage, and it also purifies the hydrogen, because all you're doing is you're using the same hydrogen catalyst and the same membrane to just shuttle protons from one end to the other, and then compress the hydrogen on the other end. So that's like a technology where we can get an immediate 10-15% gain, but it just hasn't been commercialized yet. But the main source of loss has been electrolysis, and with our system, we're moving more for sustainability and reducing costs such that we can commercialize it. But our efficiency, as noted in the industrial outlook report, is good enough for megawatt scale, even though we're working in kilowatts scale right now. Does that answer your question?
And you still have a loss then, if you sell it back to electricity.
Yeah. I mean, so the theoretical maximum will never be the same as batteries, just since there's just way less steps. I mean, if we're talking about cars, it's just charge a battery and then you have an inverter. But things like self-discharge, the fact that cobalt is something that we're not really going to be able to get rid of, like hydrogen is in a unique position where it fills a lot of niches that other energy conversion and energy storage technologies will never be. So if anything, the round-trip efficiency, it's something that competitors like to bring up, because upon initial inspection it seems terrible. But the broad implications of using hydrogen as an energy vector could very well establish a carbon neutral society, which is what I think we need.
But also, in your two examples, you had seasonal storage of hydrogen.
Mm-hmm.
Was that underground, or how did they store it?
Just in their house. Yeah, so it was similar to the tanks you see in the bottom right photo. So that's just, they have a separate house, so there's the two electrolyzer modules.
In that way.
Yeah. I don't have a picture of the storage facility for the log cabin. But yeah, hydrogen, like, storage is actually relatively safe. Like, I don't know if you guys have seen the tests that the Toyota Mirai that they put through, like their hydrogen tank that they put through. Like, they have one test, they shoot it with a 50 caliber bullet, nothing happens. They have another test where they keep it in a bonfire, wait until it blows up, and it takes like 7 minutes. And it's not even from the hydrogen blowing up, it's from the failure mechanism is the tank, ruptures first, and then the exposed hydrogen blows up. So it's not like a thermal auto ignition. I think the main qualm that people have, they always talk about the Hindenburg, but it probably would have blown up the same way even with helium, because the thing that started the spark were the metal oxide paints in the actual balloon itself. And the thing that killed people were the diesel engines burned for 10 hours after the initial explosion. So all the hydrogen did was make for a very good photo, because it all just lit up and flew up, because it's 14 times less dense than the atmosphere.